This is one of my favorite segments on the show. It's called Make It Make Sense, Rondé. And we're going to ask Rondé Barber to make sense of the big story that came out of the NFL draft in that Shedeur Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado State, of course, son right there of the legend himself, Deion Sanders, prime time, falls not to round 2, not to round 3, not to round 4. He falls to the 5th round. And the Cleveland Browns. He's going to Cleveland as a 5th round draft pick. Day 3 is when Shedeur was taken. Rondé, you had left Green Bay, and Shedeur was still on the board. And I'm sure you, like I and many others, were just waiting to see where he would end up. He ends up in Cleveland. What do you make of this? Let's call it what it is, a free fall.
Yeah, free fall. I mean, I think going into this draft, if there was one thing that everybody at the draft was prepared to talk about, it was, where is Shedeur Sanders going to get drafted? At first, it was, is he going to get drafted in the first round and where, right? But as the reports continued to spill in, I was sitting there with my 2 co-hosts and not shocked, but really just kind of eyes wide saying, this kid is not getting drafted in the first round. And at some point, you just start looking at the draft, that who's remaining to pick, and you're just saying, they're not taking a quarterback. They're not taking a quarterback. Maybe they'll take a quarterback. I don't know. And then the New York Giants traded back into the first round, and you're like, oh, okay, here we go.
Yep. And then
Jackson Dart.
Our stream producer and I, Rhett, we were at Raymond James Stadium, and I said, oh, I just had this feeling. Right as Goodell came out, I looked at Rhett. I said, Rhett, it's going to be Jackson Dart. It's not going to, and lo and behold, it was.
Right.
But could anyone really have predicted Shedeur going as late as day 3, 5th round? And I want to know, in your opinion, as to why.
Yeah.
Because accurate passer, and yes, a lot has been made of perhaps his lack of mobility. Perhaps a lot has been made about him playing for his father and that being a disadvantage, because you have to be able to learn from somebody who isn't your father, other coaches and other figures in your life that will guide you through something as complex as an NFL or really college football playbook. What's your makeup? What's your take rather on his fall and why?
I think Shedeur's what he's went through, and good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, this kid might turn into a great player. We don't know that, right? He gets a chance to do it now that Cleveland finally took him in the 5th round. By the way, after they drafted a quarterback in the 3rd round, Dylan Gabriel, which is going to make for such an interesting dynamic. They had Joe Flacco. They got Kenny Pickett on that roster. Cleveland's going to have a lot of quarterback drama next year. Let's just start with that. But for him, I think it's somewhat of a cautionary tale about how you approach the draft, right? 2 years ago, I think everybody outside of Colorado would have agreed that he was the best quarterback on the board this year, right? There wasn't a lot of hype about this quarterback class, and even after last year's quarterback class, which was pretty good, right? You got 3 of the top 3 picks were quarterbacks, and then 5 more in the top 12, right? 5 total in the top 12. And this was going to be a letdown of a quarterback class. And then Cam Ward shoots to the top of, everybody's consciousness with the year that he had at Miami. And Shedeur all of a sudden became quarterback number 2. And then you start doing the evaluations of Shedeur. And I would gather to say not a lot of teams had his draft grade as high as everybody else said that he was going to get drafted. I'm pretty sure that the Bucs didn't have a 1st round grade on him. I don't think they had a 2nd round grade on him. And I think a lot of teams had that. So the need all of a sudden becomes, I'm a team and I need a quarterback, like the New York Giants. And I brought this up earlier because the New York Giants had that option, right? They had the guy that was expected to be the top pick in the draft 2 years ago this year, and they passed on him for a guy that had, kind of a flash in the pan year at Ole Miss under Lane Kiffin, right? Now, Jackson Dart's a talented guy, right? He's got some flaws. He got a lot of flaws, right? He's not like a step in and play right now player. And so, in my opinion, Shedeur's arrogance to this process is what made people shy away from him. Like, it felt like he was sabotaging himself. I don't know if he was trying to do it intentionally, thinking that he was going to be so high on everybody's board that he would, regardless of his antics, he would be the guy chosen. But to me, it feels like that's what teams saw. That he didn't want to be in Cleveland. He didn't want to go to, be a backup somewhere. He thought he was the best quarterback in the draft, and not a lot of teams thought he was the best quarterback. Obviously, none of the teams thought he was the best quarterback in the draft. So it doesn't matter like how other people rate you. This goes back to that conversation we had about Emeka Egbuka. It doesn't matter what people outside of buildings think. And I say buildings, I mean team facilities, people making the decisions, the coaches, everybody that's putting a grade, an 8.0 grade or a 5.0 grade on a prospect. Those are the ones that make the decisions. And not enough people had a high enough grade on him to overcome some of his perceived weaknesses, right? And one of those weaknesses is the way that he carries himself. Right, he talks this game like he should be the best player in the draft. And again, he might be. I don't know. But right now, nobody thought he was, and that caused the slide. That caused the we don't want this headache slide. That caused the we're drafting a backup once you get past the second round, the third round. Why are we putting him why would we draft him now when we know we can get him later? Nobody else wants him. You could just see it. You could just see that nobody wants him. And I think the little bit of lack of humility that he took to this process hurt him. That's the only thing. Because he can play, man. He high completion percentage. He won 9 games at Colorado this year. He can make any throw that you really kind of need him to. Does he have the strongest arm in the draft? No. But he can make the throws. He's a good football player. He should be on a team. But there was some sort of, collective whatever that said we don't want this guy on our team at that draft point. The fact that Cleveland drafted another quarterback and then drafted him, and then drafted him, I think tells you everything that you need to know.
How awkward is it to be passed up so many times in really what might be the most unprecedented free fall? I mean, people thought that Aaron Rodgers falling to the back end of the first round was a free fall, or even Josh Rosen several years ago falling to like the roughly 10th pick was a free fall.
Right.
This dude fell 5 rounds, and he was considered by many to be a first or second round tout, at least the draft analyst. So how awkward is it to walk into that organization now and not just be passed up by your team in the previous 4 rounds, but as you noted, be passed up by another quarterback? Dylan Gabriel wants a real chance to succeed in the NFL.
Right.
Did it for a lot of different schools, including right here at UCF. So Shedeur has to come in here and know that he was passed on multiple times, including at his own position.
Let me look at the. You can probably tell me this. The number of so Shedeur, right? He was the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He was the 6th quarterback taken, right, in the draft. Right? The 6th quarterback in most drafts doesn't end up being in the 5th round, right? So there's a confluence of things, certainly. The way that he addressed the way he dealt with the pre-draft process, the fact that he wasn't as highly rated as a player as everybody or as he or everybody else thought he was, and then marry that with not a lot of teams needing a quarterback, a rookie quarterback on their roster, right? I think that all 3 of those factors played into this slide. Jalen Milroe getting drafted by Seattle in the 3rd round as a complete project. He is a project. Now, is he stupid athletic? Yes, he is a freak show of an athlete, and will add something that Shedeur does not have. He doesn't have that ability to run, get out of the pocket, do the Lamar Jackson type of stuff. Tyler Shough is who was drafted by one of our rivals in New Orleans. He's a big arm quarterback. He makes stupid decisions, but he's a big arm pocket quarterback. That's what they were looking for. They weren't looking for Shedeur. And I think that was the case the entire draft. And his value just kept dropping and dropping and dropping, and it is unprecedented. It's sad, but it sets him up. I'll tell you this, and I'm not trying to hammer on him, But it sets him up for a pretty good redemption story, right? He has that in his pocket now. Now, if he's smart, he uses it. Now, if he continues to use that bravado that kind of carried him through the draft and probably negatively carried him through the draft, he's going to struggle. He's going to struggle. The NFL does not care, man. There is zero sympathy vote in the NFL. Most people that are on your team want you to fail because you're taking their job, right? Most people on other teams would be glad if you failed because you're not taking their job. Right? It is unforgiving trying to make it in the NFL, and you have to approach it with a little bit of humility, a little bit of grace, and then just go work. If that was my advice to him would be that just go work. Shut up, don't say anything about it, and just go put the play on film, and it'll be undeniable.